I still remember the exact moment my heart dropped to my stomach, when I saw my mom's face light up with recognition the millisecond after I pressed send. My friends were still laughing at the vacuum cleaner noises caption I wrote about Anna's soup slurping, and I thought nothing of it until the finger slipped. That was 2 weeks ago, but I can still picture the way my phone vibrated against my palm, the fear that she saw more than just another meme. My mom didn't scream, didn't yell. She just walked in like everything was normal, held up her phone, and said, "Explain this." Before I could even form a lie, she told me she was already texting Anna's mom because she didn't want any drama between the parents. It wasn't until a teacher mentioned Anna sitting at a different table at lunch that I realized she stopped looking at me completely. Anna's mom must have told her how it happened, and now her crush is embarrassed enough to avoid me at school. My punishment was even worse than I expected. My mom took my phone away for a month, which means no gaming, no memes, no talking to my friends. I've been sitting in my room staring at the wall writing this while my little brother can't stop laughing about it. TLDR, tried to send a meme about my crush's eating habits to friends, instead sent it to my mom. Crush is now embarrassed and ignores me, and I lost my phone for a month while my brother mocks me endlessly. Was I in the wrong here? What makes this story particularly resonant is how the mother's refusal to compromise, her immediate instinct to clear the air, prioritized preserving another parent's reputation over protecting her child's social standing. Often parents intervene to protect their children's social lives, but here the opposite occurred. This reflects a cultural shift among older generations where maintaining good relationships with other families seems to take precedence over children's healing. The brother becoming the enduring antagonist throughout these events is also telling. While adults fix the damage, children live with the ongoing consequences. Teenage friendship is vulnerable to forces completely outside their control, and this story perfectly captures that helplessness. I still remember A man was locked in a bathroom stall with no toilet paper and a situation that could not wait. He had sprinted there after a lunch his stomach was clearly rejecting, and the moment he finished, the relief was overwhelming. Then he turned his head and saw the empty cardboard tube hanging from the holder. No paper, not a single shred. The tissues in his pockets were from last week and already crumpled to nothing. The emergency dispenser on the wall was locked with a key that nobody on his floor seemed to have. He sat there for 10 minutes, staring at the door, hoping someone would walk in. The office was completely silent. He checked his phone. No missed calls, no messages. He realized he had no choice but to move. He pulled up his jeans slowly, trying not to spread the mess any further than it already had. Then he waddled out of the bathroom like a penguin, sweat pouring down his forehead, clutching a stack of printer paper he had grabbed from the supply closet. His manager was standing at the water cooler. The man stopped, held the paper against his chest, and smiled like everything was fine. He made it back to the stall and faced a new problem. Printer paper was stiff and rough. One attempt at wiping with dry A4 felt like sandpaper on a wound. He reached over to the stall sink, dipped the edge of the paper under the faucet to soften it, and used it as a makeshift wet wipe. It was messy and humiliating, but it worked. He walked back to his desk with a forced smile, pretending nothing happened. Would you have asked a coworker for help or suffered in silence like he did? What makes this story resonate is not the bodily function humor, but the calculation happening in that stall. He weighed the social cost of asking a stranger for toilet paper against the physical cost of walking through the office in that state, and he chose the physical cost. That split-second decision reveals how deeply we fear vulnerability in professional spaces. The real indignity was not the situation itself, but the fact that he could not admit it to anyone around. The man was locked. A housemate left for work 2 hours ago, and right now they're sitting at their desk wondering why they feel inexplicably chatty, anxious, and floaty, completely unaware they just ate 2 hefty slices of cannabis-infused carrot bread for breakfast. The narrator had gotten into light baking recently, simple stuff like cookies and loaves. After a carrot surplus, his first batch of carrot cake bread was a hit. Between his wife and their 2 housemates, it vanished within days. So last night he made a second batch, this time with freshly made cannabis butter. Nothing crazy strong, but definitely not placebo territory. He told one housemate about the infused butter but never saw their partner, so the warning never reached the right person. He drifted off to sleep thinking about labeling the loaf and was too comfortable to get up. Woke up to a massive dent in the bread, 4 times what he'd eaten the night before. His heart dropped. His wife hadn't touched it. The housemate he'd warned grabbed some too, and in the morning rush completely forgot about the cannabis. His partner, totally unaware, helped herself to 2 big slices before heading out the door. She's a total lightweight. So now she's at work riding an unexpected wave, wondering why she's unusually chatty, in a good mood but also strangely anxious. No breakdowns, thankfully, and she's chill about it afterward. But the narrator feels terrible. The worst part? He remembers lying in bed, telling himself he should get up and label the bread, and deciding it wasn't worth the effort. Was I the only one who's made this mistake? What makes this story work is how perfectly it captures the gap between intention and action in everyday life. The narrator knew exactly what he should do and consciously chose not to, fully aware of the risk. That moment of lazy deliberation is more relatable than any baking mishap. Most disasters don't come from bad intentions. They come from the tiny accumulated choices to take the easy path, each one harmless alone, but catastrophic in combination. A housemate left for 18 coworkers just witnessed a macro photo they absolutely should not have seen, and my professional reputation collapsed in 30 seconds flat. My cat Lucifer had been constipated for 2 days, and the veterinarian instructed me over the phone to give him a gentle stomach massage and photograph any lumps to send for evaluation via telegram. During my lunch break, I rushed home from the office, positioned my phone on the washing machine with the flashlight on, and performed this undignified procedure on a cat who screamed like I was ending his life. The macro photo of his shaved backside against my fingers looked exactly like what you think it looked like. My brain then went on complete autopilot. I saw a notification, clicked the top chat, and entered full mechanical mode. The HR director messaged me about a project update, and I clicked the top chat with 18 people including the founder, attached the last photo taken, and wrote a caption about massaging something swollen and creepy. 30 seconds later, my phone started vibrating like the world was ending. I opened the chat and saw my photo sitting in front of the entire executive team. The founder commented he would refrain from commenting on my interface design. The chat went dead silent. I deleted the message for everyone, but at least 10 people had already seen it. I typed in all caps that it was my constipated cat's rear end, and I had mixed up the chats. The silence that followed was deafening. I returned to the office with my head down. Certain my colleagues now viewed me with a mixture of horror, pity, and mild curiosity. The most unsettling part is how easily it happened. Not through recklessness, but through the same mindless tap sequence we all perform 100 times daily, except this time the consequences were public and permanent. Was I in the wrong here? The real comedy here is not the mistaken photo. It is how our brains become autopilot machines when we are operating on routine. He saw a chat notification, clicked the top conversation, and attached the most recent image without a single moment of conscious thought. This is how modern communication actually works for most of us. We are not reading. We are not processing. We are just executing a mechanical sequence of taps. One wrong tap in that sequence, and you have sent a macro photo to your entire executive team. 18 coworkers 6 months before the exam that would decide everything, and this person was drowning in plain sight. Every morning started the same way. Wake up, promise today would be different, stare at the study materials for 10 minutes, then spiral into hours of binge-watching videos they didn't even enjoy. The panic attacks came without warning, tightening their chest during lectures, making their hands shake during dinner with family. They had tried to signal the darkness closing in, encoding Morse code messages into everyday conversations, tiny SOS signals disguised as texts. Not a single person noticed. The isolation was suffocating. They sat in classrooms surrounded by hundreds of classmates and felt like a ghost. No friends. No one to sit with at lunch. No one to call when the anxiety became unbearable. They had tried reaching out to adults at school, but the culture treated mental health struggles as weakness, something to pray away rather than address. Every day the doom crept closer. They could feel their motivation evaporating, their dreams slipping away, and the worst part was knowing they were doing it to themselves, stuck in a rut they couldn't climb out of. Then one evening, completely alone in their room at 2 in the morning, they typed out everything they were feeling into a Reddit post. expecting nothing. The response came within hours. Strangers telling them they weren't alone. People sharing their own stories of invisible suffering. Someone sent them a link to a free counseling service. For the first time in months, they didn't feel invisible. They made a phone call the next morning. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. What strikes me about this story is how normalized invisibility has become for young people. They encoded their pain into Morse code because directly asking for help felt too vulnerable in a society that dismisses emotional struggle. We teach children to speak up, but then punish them for it. The Reddit post became a lifeline, not because the internet is inherently caring, but because it offered anonymity without judgment, something most schools and families fail to provide. 6 months before, a 6-year-old girl at an after-school program touched me in a place no child should, and I spent 20 years wondering if someone had been doing the same to her. I was maybe 5 or 6 when this happened at the YMCA program at my school. There was this one girl with messy brown hair and wide, alert eyes who never seemed to fit in. She struggled to make friends, and the counselors often asked me to let her join our group. I didn't like being around her. Something felt off, though I couldn't articulate it then. One afternoon, we were sitting on the gym floor doing puzzles or playing with plastic animals when she reached out and started tickling my privates through my clothes. I laughed reflexively, but I knew it was wrong. I squirmed away and told her to stop, but she just grinned and whispered that I was laughing. She moved on to my friend, who also laughed because she was ticklish, and I got furious. I stood up, ran to the nearest counselor, and told them I never wanted to play with her again. The adults apologized, separated her from the group, and spoke with her while my friend and I went to another room. That was the end of it for me at that age. I went home, I went back the next week, and I never saw her in that program again. But as I grew older, that glassy-eyed, vacant expression she wore while crying and chewing her hair started to mean something different. A child that young does not invent that action. Someone taught her, someone did that to her, and she was replaying what she knew. What strikes me most is how easy it was for everyone to treat her as the problem. The counselors separated her, I resented her, and nobody asked the one question that mattered. Where did she learn this? We are comfortable identifying the child who acts out, far less comfortable following that thread to the adult who taught her. That girl was not a predator. She was a message no one wanted to decode. A 6-year-old girl. When the conference room door closed, I stood up and blamed the team for every missed deadline. She held up a printed spreadsheet and told the leadership team the documentation proved it was a delivery failure, not a management failure. Leadership nodded. Her version became the official narrative in under 5 minutes. What I didn't know was that months earlier, she had issued a mandatory company email demanding daily work logs from everyone. Quote, better visibility into workloads. Every task, every minute, every outcome, submitted every Friday. The employee took it seriously. They logged every work submission sent to her for approval that sat unanswered for 3 days. Every meeting are scheduled and then skipped without notice. Every directive that contradicted what her had asked for the previous week. Every hour spent waiting on ours input. Just dates, times, and results. Cold, neutral, complete. So when our stood in that retrospective and threw the team under the bus, the employee said nothing. They walked back to their desk, exported 4 months of daily logs, and built a summary table. Green for tasks delivered on time. Yellow for delays caused by missing information. Red for items blocked by manager inaction. They color-coded it. Clean, professional, unarguable. Then they uploaded the entire package to HR. Within 2 weeks, I was reassigned to a different project. The new manager walked in on day 1 and said no daily logs were required. The employee still keeps them anyway. Because when someone demands you document every second of your existence, the smartest move is to hand them the receipts. In color, what would you have done with 4 months of receipts? There is a particular flavor of poetic justice when a manager's bureaucratic requirement becomes the weapon used against them. Our demanded documentation because she genuinely believed the team was the problem, and she never once considered the logs would tell a different story. That is the thing about micromanagers, so focused on watching everyone else that they never wonder who is watching them. The system she built to control her team is exactly what got her removed from the project. In the conference room,